record on
Reed is also here. He's in my class, so he's listening.
Oh, good. Hi, Reed.
Hi.
Awesome. Well, okay, I think this might be everybody then. I know Jennifer's not going to make it, and Amy, I think you said maybe one of your people weren't coming. Of course, somebody at my door.
Heard back, so.
I originally wasn't going to be here today, but I rescheduled my meeting with the lady for later because I thought this might be a tad bit more important.
Excellent.
One sec. Okay, sorry about that. So we are recording. Excellent. So I think where we wanted to start out today, well, first of all, thank you everybody for joining us. I'm Becky Freeman. Amy's muted, but Amy.
I'm Amy Brown.
I teach agriculture at Tokay. I've been teaching here for 11 years, 17 years total teaching. There's a lot within the agriculture pathway, but I currently teach floral design, horticulture, and ag leadership. And then we also have some shop classes, wood shop and ag mechanics, some ag science classes here.
And I teach 2 different engineering courses, but I don't like the courses, so I'm recreating the courses. And I've been doing, I think this is my third year teaching engineering, but it's my 17th year teaching in general. I was a math teacher, and then they asked me to take over the engineering classes. So here I am.
Awesome. So I think at this time we would like for you guys to do some introductions too. And also we really just want this to be an open discussion too. So like I was saying, you know, if we spend a lot of our time just having an open discussion about classroom management, which is going to be our focus today, then we can always just send you the slides after. You know, everybody can read PowerPoint slides, right, or Google Slides. So we really want to make sure that this is as beneficial as possible for you. So what I'd like to do right now is if each person can introduce themselves in terms of how long you've been teaching, because I'm not sure if everybody is a first-year teacher in this. I think some of you have been teaching at least a year or two. And then also what you're teaching, how it's going for you, especially with the start of school. And because we kind of joined this program late in the year, we really wish we could have been helping you guys back in August, but the program didn't even exist then, so we kind of got recruited in February. So we're a little bit late to the game. So sorry we weren't there earlier for you. But we'd like to know how things are going for you 3/4 of the way through the class or through the school year. So whoever wants to start would be awesome.
Millette, do you want to go ahead?
I have this bell, the music, and I cannot talk. So.
I'll go ahead and start. My name is Phil Luttrell. I'm teaching building and construction trades. I'm a brand new teacher. I just started February 1st in the classroom. So far, I've really enjoyed it, and even more so now that my students are back and in person. The Zoom was a little different for me. I had nothing to compare it to, not ever having in-person instruction. But I just didn't feel like I was connecting with the students on Zoom. I tried and some of them would respond, and I have a couple students that would talk to me and communicate back and forth. But now that they're in person, everybody's communicating with me, and you know, they don't seem to be as shy in person as they were on Zoom. So I'm really enjoying having them back in the classroom and getting to know them and seeing how their projects are progressing.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, your program had a long-term sub, right, until February?
Yeah, I think from the beginning of the year, I think 2 or 3 different long-term subs that were doing. And from what I understand, it was just strictly book learning, which had to have just been boring these kids to death at home.
Yeah, and a long-term sub situation is never ideal. So I hope you're looking forward to next year to being able to really start with those students from day one. So
I am for sure, and actually getting to have them involved in the curriculum that I want to put in place. I was lucky enough to connect with the teacher at Lincoln High School in Stockton who's doing the same sort of a program, and luckily he gave me an idea for a hands-on project that they could do while they were doing distance learning. Cause I was like, what am I going to do with these kids? I had no idea. And it was a project that they were able to have at home, build something on their kitchen table and have their hands doing something. So I think they had to have been more excited about that than just being read to. I mean, literally, from what I understand, the lady was reading to them out of the textbook. So I hope that they're enjoying this a little more.
I imagine they are. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, I'm able to talk now. Oh, Kristen, were you? I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to jump in because I thought you couldn't, but feel free. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm fairly new teacher like Phil. We met each other at Janae's office. And I started on February 8th. And starting Zoom was not, I did not have a good experience. You know, I do not have any kind of teaching experience. I'm really from the field directly to teaching. And so when I got into Zoom, you know, I was going in confidently knowing, oh, I know how to teach these kids. You know, I studied, I had this lesson plan. I studied until maybe 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And then in that 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning lessons that I prepared was only done in 2 days. And I said, oh my goodness, is this how it's gonna be? Because I did not have the tools. Now that I'm going through the Teachers College of San Joaquin, now I now have the tools to be able to you know, how to break apart a class into, you know, some kind of a modules, so I can actually get different activities for the kids. So it became much better when I started instruction with the Teachers College, and then now the in-person, I think I am enjoying it more. So that's on my perspective. But I think with the kids, for the kids, in the Zoom, they're more, because they're able to write anything and everything, how they feel, they're more expressive in Zoom because they can, you know, I got to know more of the kids who want to talk and chat and on the, who's able to express themselves in writing. But at the same time, there are some kids that I see in person that I've never seen before. So, and they are consistently coming for the last week and a half. They have been here. I have never seen them before in Zoom. So in person is much better, definitely, for the kids. And I think for the teachers. So that's it.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. What classes do you teach?
I am a teacher in CTE Information and Communication Technologies. So I am teaching inventing smart objects and make an app for that.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I mean, that might be Amy's field, but it certainly isn't mine. But I can definitely help you with the classroom piece of it. And that goes for all of you too, because I don't think I'm familiar with any of your fields. I mean, maybe a little bit in the construction, maybe like this much. But definitely the in the classroom piece part of it and how to chunk your lessons, and we'll dive into that too, because that's actually a huge part of classroom management. So good, thank you for sharing.
Okay, so my name's Kristen, and this is my second year with Lodi Unified. Previous to that, I teach medical assisting, and so I've been in healthcare for almost 24 years. And I did teach at Kaplan College before they closed down. So those were adult students, and I taught for 2 years there. That was back in 2010, so it's been a while. But this is my second year, and so far, Zoom was really crappy because you have to do, like, most of our stuff, like CTE is hands-on. You can't teach like vital signs from a computer. So I love being back in the classroom, and I think my students are loving it too. And we're working this week on taking an accurate blood pressure. So that's really fun. And they left today and they're like, Mission, this is so much better when we actually get to do stuff. Like, so it's so much better than them just sitting there. It's just, yeah, it's much better.
Awesome. Good.
Do you want me to have Reed introduce himself?
Yes, please.
I'll turn it over. Okay. There you go.
Hello, everybody. How's it going?
Hi.
Hi, Reed Shu, medical assisting. This is my first year here at Lincoln Tech. Yeah, it's been going great so far. I actually really enjoyed Zoom. I thought there was a lot. I mean, there's pros and cons to it. Some students took well to it and did well. Some, had their own kind of issues with it. There were good and bad days, but I think everyone, for the most part, is glad to be back. Had a few students who unfortunately didn't want to come in person and they dropped out. That kind of sucked. But we have long talks about personal responsibility and goals and what we really want out of life and things like that. So, I told them, you're at that age where you have to make sound decisions for yourself and there are consequences, and hopefully everything works out the way you want it. But everyone's been having a good time. We're jumping into skills and at first, a lot of apprehension, a lot of nervousness. No one knew each other really. And all the kids from different schools, it's kind of like they don't know where to sit. They don't know where the cool kids are at or whatnot. But everyone's getting used to each other, had some successful icebreakers. I see new friendships forming. I'm forcing them to mix it up and not get in cliques and kind of meet new people every day. And our exercises force them to interact with each other and ask a lot of questions. So it's been positive so far. I think it's just going to get better and better, hopefully.
All right, good. Thank you. Yeah, I agree with all of that. Zoom was hard. Just like with my class, we have a huge greenhouse and how are we supposed to handle the greenhouse and plant and, learn how to make floral arrangements on distance? I mean, we did do some. I made kits for the students and sent it home. And I know a lot of teachers did that. So we got by, but I'm definitely glad to be back in the classroom as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over a couple of things. Cool, it's not gonna let me minimize because I'm recording. 1 second here. So basically I wanted to see what your definition is of classroom management, and then we're going to kind of dive into it. So if everybody can just kind of share what your thoughts are of classroom management, how would you define it? You can also throw in some things maybe that you currently do to manage your classroom. That would be awesome. So whoever wants to start.
I'll start. So the first idea that when you say classroom management, I think of how the students act with each other, how do they react with me or correspond with me, how I can keep them engaged, how I can make sure that they're actually learning and not being distracted by their peers or cell phones or whatever it may be. Basically managing the classroom. So I was a manager previous to coming here. I managed multiple clinics for Adventist Health. And I hated management. That's why I left. But I feel like it's very different managing students than managing adults that are getting paid. And it's very different, but there are some same concepts. So that's what I think of when I think of classroom management.
And Kristen, if I can just ask real quick, because you have taught adult students, what are some differences you see between the high school students and the adult students?
So what's interesting is we have adult students in our classes now as well. So we have a mixture of seniors and adults. And I think the adults, they have a very specific goal. They know why they're here. They're not just like, well, we're going to graduate, we're tired of school. They're like, I want to get this done. I have a family. I'm not playing around. So they're a little more mature in their goals. But I love having them mixed with our high school students because it keeps the high school students motivated to kind of behave and act above their age. Yeah.
And I was just going to comment on that too, before I forget. With pretty much all of the classes that we teach, our students are choosing to be there. They have to actually click the box on their course selection sheet. It's not like a lot of the general ed classes where they have to take it. I've noticed that when I've subbed in other general ed classes, or science or English or wherever. But our classes, and I rarely have classroom management issues because I think the kids want to be there. And so I feel like I always just have really good kids, but it's because they want to be there. So I think we're lucky
I completely agree. When I tell people that I teach high school students, my friends are like, what are you thinking? Because, you know, we're old enough to know what high school students are about. But I also preface that by saying, yeah, but they chose to be here. It's not like a math or PE or something they have to take where they're dreading it and they're not good at it. It's something they're interested in. So I agree. My
And
students.
Amy teaches math, so maybe she
Oh,
she can
sorry, Amy.
she probably sees that difference. Yeah.
Yes, it's a huge difference, especially in like the lower level math classes where they just feel like they're not good at it. There's a whole lot more that goes into classroom management for that compared to my engineering classes. I will say though, the freshmen in my engineering class, they only have like one other option for that works in their schedule for their elective, maybe two. And so sometimes by default, they just don't want the others. And so they end up in engineering, but they have no desire to be an engineer. And so that they're not necessarily a problem for the other students. They just don't do much of anything. They don't want to participate or be engaged in the lessons at all. But that's it's unlike the behavior issues that I have in some of my math classes. So this is definitely different when they choose.
Mhm.
Well, and what I can see with my students is, I didn't mention earlier, for those of you that don't know, I teach a class at Tokay and also at Lodi High. And I was going to, when I started in the classroom, I was going to do an assignment with the kids, asking them why they took this class. And then I looked back through the work that they had done at the beginning of the year, and the substitute actually had given them that assignment and asked them to say why they were in the class. So I had gone through and looked at them. And one thing that I found was really interesting is most of the kids in my Lodi class had signed up for that class. They wanted that class. And same with my 5th period here at Tokay. And those kids had signed up for the class and they seem like they want to be there and they're engaged in working in their projects. Whereas my 6th period class, I didn't look at the percentage, but I would guess off the top of my head, probably 85% of those kids in that 6th period class, which it is an online class, which how you're going to do a construction class and have it designed to be online is kind of beyond me. But I would guess 85% of those kids put down on their sheet that they did not choose the class. It was given to them, which is, I don't know if the school like, okay, we need to do something with these kids, let's put them in this class and we'll make it an online class. I don't know if that's how it came about, but I can see that the engagement with those kids in that 6th period class and their interest is a lot less than my other classes. And I think it's because they didn't choose to be in that class. It was given to them. And I mean, they're not to say that they're not doing the work, they are, but I can tell just by their enthusiasm that they're not as excited about it as the other students are. And as far as classroom management, and I think my biggest thing with classroom management is my time management. And I want to make sure I'm trying to kind of run my classroom like I did with work crews, because I'm coming right out of industry too. I was in the industry for 21 years. I'm coming straight from the field to the classroom. So I'm just kind of trying to plan my days like I would if I was on a job site as far as time goes, and making sure that I'm utilizing their time and not wasting their time. And that while they're there, they're doing something that they're going to learn from, and it's not just busy work to make it look like they're doing something. So that's kind of how I see classroom management. Please tell me I wasn't muted the whole time I was saying that.
Oh, no, you're
No, we heard every word.
I just looked down, I was like, did I really just say all that muted?
Oh my goodness, I was told many times that I am muted. They are getting tired of me. So Mrs. Martinez, you're muted. But now I'm learning. But anyway, classroom management for me is being able to teach effectively, I think, with no distractions, and the students are able to receive the teaching and learn. Of course, I've learned with Teachers College that a well-structured class with a lesson plan, it helps with classroom management. So so I try, with McNair, it's an hour and 30 minutes for the class. So I really try to structure it based on 15-minute module, and learning also from Teachers College that 14, 15-year-old, which is most of my students, freshmen and sophomores, has only attention span of 15 minutes. And so I do try to structure my class based on a 15 minutes module. And so whether it's, talking or watching a video or an activity. And so that's part of my classroom management practice, I guess, if you would say that. And also another classroom practice management that I have been applying is walking up and down the aisles of my classroom. And so because so I, in a way, I am going around and seeing, and not really coming down to students like, hey, better get your act together. But I'm just, kind of, hey, how's it going? But in reality, kind of putting them in check. You better be doing what your task to be done, but really in a softly way. That's what I do.
No, that's a good way to hold them accountable too. And circulating the room.
Yeah, and I always tell them, you guys will be working Taco Bell or fast food. You guys are 14 and a half wanting to work. Accountability is very important. So you have to be accountable to me as your supervisor.
Proximity to the student is probably like the biggest thing that would keep students on task, honestly. Like telling them doesn't work. I mean, it can work, but it's not as effective as just walking by them and then they're like, oh yeah, I'm working. So proximity is great. Circulate all the time.
It really works. It really works.
And definitely structuring your lesson around those, 15 or so minute time blocks, especially those of you that have, the 2 periods. And I know Amy and I, since we teach at Tokay, we just have our 50 something minute periods. So those block periods are a little bit different for us. So definitely structuring your lessons so that it's chunked in different types of activities, 10, 15 minutes, switch to something else. Now I know, if you're doing a big hands-on project, it's probably not conducive to, stop them and then go do something else for 15 minutes. You might need them to work for 30, 40, 50 minutes. So like Phil, I totally understand, you just need them to work solid for that whole time. Like I do the same thing in horticulture and floral. But, if you're going to be lecturing that day or watching a video or, doing some more activities where they're in their seat, they do lose their attention span pretty quickly.
Yes. Yes.
One thing I wanted to mention is that we're at Lincoln Tech, Reed and I, and so we have all of the high schools come to our campus, but they don't arrive and leave at the same time. So that's been the biggest challenge. For example, our first and second period, Lodi High and Tokay get here about 7:15, 7:10, 7:15, and then McNair doesn't get here till almost 7:25. So we have that big gap of students here waiting on McNair, and then McNair leaves at 8:25 and the rest of the class stays to almost 9. So we have a really large span of time where students are missing instruction if we continue instruction. And so I'm trying to make it when McNair leaves and comes and goes, they work on something they've already learned, but that's really difficult. That's where I'm finding the biggest challenge, is because I feel like a lot of our time is honestly wasted.
Kristen, was it that way last year too? It's not anything different because of
It's nothing new.
coming back. Okay.
Yeah, it's nothing new.
That's
Now, McNair's bus is a little bit behind, so they're not getting here when they technically should. I think they should be here at 7:20. They catch the bus at McNair at 6:50, so it takes them that long to get here. So 7.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and so and then third and fourth period, same situation. Fifth and sixth period, same situation. So I feel like it's a 90-minute period because we've.
But it's really not.
It's really not. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. I mean, it makes sense because, some of the schools are on different bell schedules in McNair so far,
Yeah.
but I never really thought about that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Did Reed have anything to chime in on for classroom management? Now, Reed, you taught somewhere else, right? Did I hear that right from Janae?
Oh, yeah. So I taught at Metropolitan Education School District in San Jose. And I taught adult and the high schoolers there. Let's see. So as far as my classroom management, I think just trying to keep yourself as a teacher organized as possible. Like we're doing right now, we're working on the rest of the school year. We're laying it out. We're mapping out how many days do we have? What skills do we absolutely have to cover? What can we forego or supplement with a video? And we're trying to push all the or the things that are most important at the top and kind of push everything down and see how could we manage it in the time we have. And then once we have that, I'm going to put up my Google Classroom. The students can see it. They have a checklist. They know what they're looking forward to. And you just try to stay on task best you can. And communication, you communicate with your students best you can and tell them this is the expectation. But if things have to get changed, you have to also assert yourself that, communication is good and everything's fair. But when it comes down to it, I'm the one making the decisions. And if I make a decision and it changes things, not to stress out over it because it's thought out. It's thoughtful for their benefit, and that they just have to trust me. And just how you talk to them and you behave in front of them, you try your best to instill trust from your students. So when you have to make changes, they don't freak out or think that you're incompetent. They know that things happen and that it's in their best interest. But I think as a teacher, staying organized, having a game plan, trying to kind of plan out as far into the future as you can is really important. But it's really hard when you're brand new. It takes time, it takes experience, and it's okay to make your mistakes because you're going to learn from them. But what I've learned is don't let the students realize you've made a mistake, right? If you screwed up, have a couple backup plans. Go, oh my God, I forgot to print out all my packets. I forgot to get the answer key done. Hey guys, we're going to watch this video that's related to the subject, and I want you to do the little brainstorm clouds. I'm looking for key words, and we'll discuss it after the video. And while they're watching the video and taking their notes and looking for, say, particular medical terms, I can be on my desk racing to get whatever else done. And as far as they know, this was part of my plan all along. So, I don't know.
What do we call that? Fake it till you make it?
Yeah, exactly. But it's hard. It's easier said than done, and it's hard when it's your first time. But I think some of the kids, to be honest, if they see a little blood in the water, they can go into a little feeding frenzy on you, and you don't want to ever lose your control or your power over them. Really, you have to be their mentor, and they have to look up to you, and you don't want them to kind of question or challenge you. Don't ever let your kids lead your class too. I've had my first year that happened too much. I had one student that was constantly, well, why don't we do this instead today? And I made the mistake of, yeah, sure, I guess, okay. Huge mistake. Yeah.
Awesome. I think you said a couple really good things there. Organization and structure. I think you can avoid a lot of classroom management issues with that alone. If the students know what their task is, and that's how I set up my class every single day, and even for the week too. I tell them, okay, this is what we're doing today, and then I jump into it. So they always know what's expected of them. At Tokay too, and I think it's district-wide, our administrators really want to see our objectives posted every single day. So that's something that I know a lot of us try to do, and sometimes it's hard, but I think now I've gotten in the routine, and never used to be something I used to do. But I think, how it's, what is it? Teach an old dog new habits. So I think I'm trying to get the objectives written every single day now. But structure, I think you can avoid a lot of things. And also having a backup plan. I like that idea too. Just kind of have some extra tools in your toolbox ready to go, especially if technology stuff goes down, because that kind of thing happens a lot. So have some backup, copies made, or, something else that maybe is a couple days forward in your lesson plans, and you can do that instead and then just swap your curriculum for those couple of days.
So what I do for like, yeah, if there's a technology issue, I have some different like for me, like we do like medical term. I have medical terminology like crossword puzzles, games that they can play, even interactive. They can get up on the board and play medical term hangman, like try to guess what medical term this is, and have them interact. And I don't need the computers, and I don't need a TV to do that. And these are just kind of in the drawer. Worst comes to worst, hey guys, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go to the copier. I'm coming right back. You know, and that's really easy. And the other thing too for me is having a pattern. If you get in a set routine of this is the first thing we do, this is the second thing we do, and always make it the easiest things, and that they get in that pattern, that gets them ready for the job, because they know when they get into the job, they got to go in, get into their scrubs, clock in, turn the computer on. They get in these set patterns and they know what to expect. And I have it set up so the substitute has to come in. It's just the list is right there. For the first 10 minutes, you don't have to do anything. The students already know what to do. They're going to do X, Y, Z. So
I'm glad to hear you say that, Reed, because that's kind of what I've been doing this year so far, is since they've been back this last week and a half, is they pretty much know what I expect of them when they come into the room. And I tell them the day before, okay, this is what we're going to do tomorrow. When they come in that morning, I reiterate, you know, this is what we're going to do today. This is what I want to accomplish by the end of the week. I expect you to have this wall, and this wall done. But they are already getting, just in this week and a half, they're kind of getting into a routine already. Nice. They know to come in, they're going to sit here and do this for 10 minutes or whatever, and then they're going to get up and they're going to work on their project. So, and it does seem to help. And that's kind of always, I'm a total creature of habit, and anybody that knows me will tell you that. If I was a criminal, I'd be very easy to capture, because I do, you know, I'm a total creature of habit. So for me, that works best for me. So I'd like to see my students do that as well, and get into a habit where, and that's how my job sites were, you know, is they expected, you know, people knew what I expected, and this is how I wanted the morning to go, and this is how I want the rest of the day to go. And
yeah, and you're always going to have a day where something kind of gets a little off kilter, but it's okay. They need to expect abnormalities every once in a while. But even with the Zoom, they knew Monday was vocabulary and there's a video, lecture starts on Tuesday, you know, things like that. You get in that pattern and they know what to expect. And it prevents you from being annoyed by, well, what do we do? Like what happened yesterday? I don't know. And even now that we're in class, I'm still going to keep everything as digital as possible. It's on Google Classroom. If you didn't show up here today, all your stuff's on Google. Watch the lecture, watch the video, do the assignment. It's all posted there. So that way because they'll come and they'll distract you at the worst possible time. You're trying to get the class settled. You're trying to get going. You know exactly how long it's going to take you to give your presentation. And you got some kid who comes late and they're like, I wasn't here for the last 2 days. What did I miss? I tell my students, don't even ask me, because you know, it's on Google Classroom. It's right there. It's going to stay there, whether we're here or at home.
Excellent. I think that's an excellent way to avoid those mid-class interruptions. Yeah, we get that too.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
One thing that my students do need to realize too is, even though we have a plan and this is what, you know, the plan is, they have to know that they need to be flexible and the plans are going to change, especially in the building trades. Things can go a whole lot different in a day than you think they're going to once you get to the job and you start doing something. So they need to know that things can change and unexpectedly, and to be able to roll with it.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for CTE teachers to you know, remember, is that besides the didactic and the practical skills that we do, we're preparing them for a career, and we're preparing them for the real world. And the more personal stories and experiences you bring into it, it kind of it invigorates them a little bit more. They get more excited. And I always tell them, I know you guys love my stories, but I can't wait to hear your stories. You know, like, I want you to come back in 3-4 years, and I want you to be a guest speaker, and I want you to tell my students what it was like to be a student and what crazy stories do you have. Because after a while, they get kind of tired of listening to the teacher, and it's like, they know, oh, okay, this and that. They want to hear it from someone else, even if it's the same thing you're saying. It just makes them more excited. It makes it more real to them. It gives them more anticipation for it. So that's really good that you're talking about in the construction trade, things happen. jobs change, bosses, whatever. You gotta throw that reality at them.
And I do try to incorporate as many stories as I can about, whatever we're doing, whether it's foundations. Because believe me, after 21 years in the trades, I've got some stories to tell.
Oh, I bet.
I've seen a lot of things done well and a lot of things that weren't so well.
My husband's a contractor, and so every day it's a new story about, oh, this thing got messed up. Oh, these cabinets didn't arrive, or oh, my word.
You have to be willing to roll with the punches.
Yes, yes. Okay, did anybody else have anything to add about their thoughts on classroom management? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen real quick, which is the presentation. We can go ahead and send this out to you. And really, again, I don't know that we need to necessarily go through all of these, but we just wanted to share some good kind of general policies that really go a long ways with students. And these are just kind of daily things that, we feel should be just kind of how you conduct yourself, from anywhere from being consistent to showing enthusiasm, developing your expectations. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger for you. So that way, like we were just talking about, students know exactly what's expected of them. But also, when can they go to the bathroom? What is the procedure for that? Or if they need to go out of class for some other reason, or where do they turn in papers? Or, that all of those things that they need to do, that those procedures are lined out for them. So like some of you were saying, they need to change into their scrubs. Okay, well, where do they do that? And where do they put do they have a locker? And, so setting all of that up from day one, which is typically, I would assume, something you would do in your first week. Amy, if you're okay with that, I'm just going to kind of scroll through these real quick and then we can just send it out to them. Yeah. And being patient with yourself. I know, Reed, you were talking about having a backup plan. There's also been times where I've been honest with my students, especially if it's a new topic, which don't be afraid of new topics. I know some of you have like very strict stuff you have to cover for certifications. But if it's a new topic you're covering, be like, hey, this is new for me too. It's okay. We're going to learn it together. Why not? So be patient with yourself. Be honest with your students too. Sometimes if it's maybe something you haven't done before.
I do want to touch on that just a little bit.
Yeah.
It has happened a lot this school year, especially with the distance teaching. And for my class in particular, there were a lot of assignments that they should have been completing on the computers and using programs that are not available for their Chromebooks. And so I was trying different things and programs online, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I'm like, we're going to figure it out together. And then I, mess it up, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm sorry. This is just how it is. I'm figuring it out. I'm trying to plan. Here's a backup plan. We're not going to do this today anymore. We're going to switch gears. But I tell them I lean into my mistakes. Like I own them. Like, ta-da, I screwed up. But it helps them see me as human, and it lets them know that it's okay, that they don't have to do it perfect the very first time. So, because sometimes kids, they just give up and they won't try if they're afraid they're going to do it wrong.
I have an input to that too. Last Friday or last week, this kit arrived, and this was ordered maybe a quarter ago. And well, I don't know anything about this thing. It's a physical computing. So it's computing that will have some circuits, and I never learned anything about physical computing, but I have to teach it.
Don't be afraid to just learn with the students.
Well, that's what I told them.
Yeah.
You guys, you know what? This has never been my cup of tea, physical computing, and I've not learned it. So guess what? It is a challenge for me. So some of you may not like it, but you are also challenged today, like me, to learn and enjoy it. So that's exactly that today. It's still in plastic bags.
I'm sure there's a YouTube video on it somewhere.
And I did that. So I said, let's start learning about these different parts. And so we learned together. So I'm learning with you guys.
Excellent, excellent. I'm teaching 2 new courses this year. So I find myself doing that a lot. Like, well, I've never done this activity before, but let's just try it. Let's just see how it goes. And then you have the technology piece with it too. Like, well, it works on my computer. I don't know if it's going to work on the Chromebook. So let's just see how it goes. And I'll know for next year. Just kind of go through a couple more of these, begin at the beginning and end at the end. And we just talked about your guys' schedules and how that's hard. So I will help you in any way that I can with that. But our schedule here at Tokay is very much like the bell rings to start, the bell rings to end, and it's the same for everybody. So yours is a little bit more challenging, but I would say, some fillers if there's some independent work that they can work on when those other kids have to leave. Not talking too much. We talked about that already, chunk your lesson content, finding your teacher voice. People ask me all the time, why are you talking so loud? You don't have to yell, but that teacher voice, make sure you could be heard. I think we've all probably sat in a room where somebody had a very, mousy voice and then you couldn't hear them or couldn't understand them. And so you really want to make sure that you're projecting your voice and speaking clearly and that every student can hear you.
Especially with the masks on now.
Oh my word. That's a challenge. Let's see. Remember to play. Yes. So have fun. Somebody had mentioned some icebreakers. I think that's awesome. Even if you can just have a couple of those in your toolbox too. I know I do a lot of that at the beginning of the school year, and I think that might help in setting up the tone for the rest of the year. And also just kind of that welcoming environment in your classroom. In our ag department, we're kind of like a family here anyway, so it already kind of has that feel. But the whole first week of school, and maybe this is something you can look forward to for next year, we do different activities and icebreakers and get to know you things and talking about our values and what's important to us. And so that really helps to break down a lot of the barriers that are in class. And it really seems to help the flow for the rest of the year. So having some of those in your back pocket to use. And when you just need a time filler sometimes, if a lesson went a lot faster than you expected, do a couple icebreakers, do just some fun activities. It could be content related or take a break. Maybe it's not content related. It's okay. If 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, it's still something fun, but not content related. The kids need that release a little bit. Having a strong finish. We added some things on here too of, teaching respect and also modeling respect and manners for your students. Mutual respect is so important. So we expect them, if you say good morning, we expect to have that said back. The please, the thank you, may I use the restroom, all of that verbiage that you guys would expect at a job site. You wouldn't walk up to your boss and say, hey, I need to go to the bathroom, but I was going to use some other words, but you would expect them to ask in a professional way, or they just know the procedure to make that happen. Praise, find something that you can praise them about. Some of these kids don't get a lot of that. So one kid just today, 6th period, when she left, I was typing something. She said, bye, Miss Freeman. And I didn't reply right away. And she's like, she didn't say bye to me. And I said, bye, Desiree, I love you. I heard her walk all the way down the hall. And she's like, she said she loves me. Like, she kept saying it. This is a girl I've had for 3 years. And it left me feeling like I kind of made her day almost after I disappointed her. So just those little things of praising the kids. Like I said, some of these kids don't get that at home. And so you never know, maybe you can make their day with just a little smile or a good morning or, oh, your outfit looks great today. Or I know there's fine lines with that kind of stuff, but, or, great job on that assignment or the little things, Amy, did you have anything to chime in on any of that?
Yeah, no, I was going to go as far as, and it's not so much in my engineering class, but in my math classes, there are kids that I praise if they bring a pencil. I'm just like, good job, brought a pencil today. And I try not to do it in a sarcastic way, like, excellent, maybe tomorrow, see if we can bring pencil and a paper. And I'm, no, good job, you did it. And then eventually they actually start to do work. Like, they just need a little bit of attention. They really do.
Absolutely. So, and then the last thing on here, we just have know when to ask for help. You guys can continue to reach out to us anytime. I know Janae is amazing at Lincoln Tech. She used to be a teacher here at Tokay, and we were so sad to see her go. But honestly, I'm loving her in this new role for CTE. She's done such a good job, especially this being her first year there. So she's an amazing resource for you guys to have at Lincoln Tech. But certainly anytime you have questions or, anything, if something happens on a particular day, just shoot us an email, say, hey, this is what happened today. How should I handle it when this kid comes in tomorrow? Or, we're always just a phone call or an email away too. So it could be classroom management related or anything else.
Oh, I want to make another comment. It also goes a long ways to email the parents, not just for bad things, but for jobs well done as well. I find my kids are more on task and more productive when I email and say, they turned in an amazing project. It was beyond my expectations. They did a great job. Just wanted to let you know that they're doing wonderful. And then the kid comes back and they're eager to get on task, and then they share that information with all the kids, and it's amazing.
Yes, that's a good one. And I'm guilty of probably not doing that enough.
I am too, but when I do it, it's great.
So at this time, we just wanted to open it up for any further discussion or questions or really anything.
I just wanted to go back to what I believe is one of the most important slides is be consistent, be consistent, be consistent, but then also be lenient, but do that in privacy. But keep up the consistency in front of the whole class. You can still talk to kids on a case-by-case situation for certain things, but the class needs to know that you're consistent. Otherwise, that's where they end up starting to try to take over or persuade or whatever it is they're trying to do. Huge.
I think the most important part of that is if you are going to give a kid a special privilege or leniency on something, like Amy said, doing that off to the side. Because if the other kids hear it or see it, they're like, well, you're playing favorites and you let this kid do it, so why can't I do it? And you're going to start getting a lot of that. But yeah, being flexible, these kids have a lot going on, in this whole pandemic, that adds a whole nother layer. But, we've always said every kid has a story. And that's kind of something else too, I'd like to throw in. Get to know your kids. They all have a story. And it can really affect you too. You can invest as much or as little as you want in getting to know them. But I think getting to know them on a personal level and their story goes a long way. Really creates the buy-in from them too.
Definitely.
I have an experience.
Sorry, Melissa, go ahead.
I have an experience yesterday's Monday. In the first period class, I'm not sure, the weekend, I guess he's 14 years old, maybe freshman, and he slept through the class. So I don't know. I was just thinking, what made this young man so tired and exhausted? He slept through the class and I just let him.
Did you ask him why he was so tired?
Well, you know what? I said, then he kind of woke up and I said, hey, quickly do your assignment. It's in Google Classroom. I said, would you like to have a candy? I think I have a candy in my purse. I said, so you can eat. No, I'm fine. I said, so why are you so tired? Did you game too hard? Or I says, oh, no. And he was not really, because I guess he just woke up.
Well, yeah, and like I said, you don't know what's really going on at home. Some of these kids work. They might work late. Some of them, are gaming, and maybe they don't have somebody at home to give them that structure of no, turn it off. You have a bedtime of 10, 11 o'clock. I have a 14-year-old son too, and his phone goes downstairs at 9:30, and he's supposed to be in bed. Whether he falls asleep at that time or not, I don't know, but I hear of my students staying up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning doing whatever, but they don't always have somebody at home. They have other people in their home that aren't allowing them to sleep.
I woke up yesterday, and as soon as I got to school and opened my email, I saw that I had an assignment turned in, and I was like, okay. And I look at the girl turned the assignment in at like 1:22 in the morning, and I'm thinking, what are you doing up building walls at 1:22 in the morning? You should be sleeping. But
yep, I get that a lot.
I couldn't believe it.
I also want to share something that I got in trouble with. Not really in trouble, but the first day, so Monday last week, they said, oh, so I said, hey, you remind me what time we get off. So we're off supposed to be at 8:50 from 7:20. It's an hour and a half. And so this one young man says, Mrs. Martinez, you know, it's always a line at the brunch. I said, can we leave at 5 minutes early? So I said, is it a line? Yes, and we don't, and it's only a 15-minute brunch. So guess what? I allowed them to leave 5 minutes early. So after a few days, the vice principal came to me. Mrs. Martinez, you've been allowing the students to leave early. I said, well, they said that they you know, it's always a line for brunch, and my motherly instinct says, okay, go ahead. And so I learned that I cannot let them go until the bell rings. That's one thing. Those are the two things that I want to share.
And it's funny you say that, because I'm always like, nope, when the bell rings, that's when we're done. However, this year, just because so I teach in a long hallway, and so it gets super crowded during the passing period. And so they did mention to maybe stagger our release times by 30 seconds or a minute. That way, there's not so many kids in the hallway at one time because of COVID. And then we also have a ton of construction going on around campus. So kids are having to take the long way to certain classes. And so I honestly have not been as strict about it in the last week and a half as I have been, you know, like I'll let kids go maybe 30 seconds early, but typically I would not. That's just a pandemic related thing. There was something else I was going to say on that.
So, you know, I know that they get anxious. So I said, okay, you guys can get ready, but I cannot let you guys out. I don't want that vice principal to come back. That's all I say.
Yes, definitely. No, they won one over on you, that's for sure. That happens a lot with substitutes. We have a 5-minute cleanup bell in our building. And so a lot of times the kids, you know, the 5-minute bell will go off and the kids will say, oh, that's the bell to go. And the sub doesn't know. And so, oh, okay. And I'll say the kids walk by and I'm going, oh, no. So one other thing I wanted to bring up was seating charts. I do seating charts. You know, usually a preference thing of the teacher. However, they do like us to have them for the subs. Now with COVID, we're being required to have seating charts because of contact tracing. They want to see which students were within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes of that person that tested positive. But this is how I typically do it. Like I said, I usually have really good kids. I let them choose their seat at the beginning of the school year, and I make my seating chart off of that. But I tell them, this is your chance. I can move you at any time, but I'm trying to give you the opportunity to be mature young adults and choose your seat. And I have moved kids, but I think giving them that freedom and that choice goes a long way too, and it shows that you trust them. But I think seating charts go a long ways.
I've had 4 guys in my 5th period class here at Tokay that at first thought that they were going to be able to just sit in the corner and the 4 of them just have a fun time for 50 minutes or whatever the class is. But they quickly, and I'm not a person who can sit idle for very long. So I'm not going to be a teacher who's behind my desk. I'm going to be moving around the classroom all the time. And I think they realized pretty quick that, and I told them the second day, I said, I don't care if you guys talk amongst yourselves while you're working, but you need to be working. I said, I don't expect this classroom to be silent that I can hear a pin drop. I want you to talk and, you know, exchange notes on your project and what you're doing. I said, and you don't even have to be talking about the project, but you need to be working on the project. I said, and if you 4 can't figure it out, I said, then I got a corner for each of you. And so far they've been working every day. They're still talking, but they're getting their projects done. So
I allow a lot of socialization in my class too, and that's why Zoom was so hard for me, because there was no talking happening, and it was hard. I think just as hard for me as it was for the kids. And my classroom's pretty loud. I do allow the students to chit chat too, as long as they're being productive and working. And if they're doing independent work, I even let them listen to their music. And again, it's a relaxed, chill environment, but there's still the accountability piece, and they like being here. And that, I think, speaks volumes for classroom management.
I do that as well with my class. I tell them there's certain times where we can sit and talk and listen to your ear pods while you're working, that's fine. But if I'm talking or if I have a guest speaker who's talking, you better believe you are going to be respectful and you're going to pay attention, because if not, your phone's going to be on my desk and I'll have to separate you. So I've only had to actually do that one time. And boy, was that boy, he was so mad at me, but I was like, I warned you like twice. So
But you made an example out of him for everybody else.
yeah, and I don't think he liked me the rest of the year, but that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, I heard somebody use the word choice, giving the students choice, and I just wanted to share, not now because we're just having them on campus 3/4 of the way through the school year, but typically I know what my classroom expectations are going to be, but I don't let the kids know that I know. And so I have them at the beginning, first day, tell me what they think the classroom expectations should be. And they always put things in there like be respectful to others and, don't mess up the stuff in the class and things like that. But then I also tell them that I'm going to do the same thing with all my other class periods and then pull the ones that were talked about the most from there to create it. That way, if they don't include something that I really want to be on my list, I can just say that it came from another class period. And but there's something about that, even though I end up with the same exact classroom expectations every year, the fact that they thought they were part of the process is wonderful. Because when they do break a rule, I'm like, well, you guys came up with it. I didn't come up with it, you guys did. And they tend to follow things better when they think it was their own idea. Just a choice goes a long way, even if it's fake choice.
Implied. Yes, good. I love it. Okay, well, if anybody else has anything else on classroom management at this time, if not, did anybody have anything before I? No? Okay. Well, again, we recorded this, so we will have it available if you needed to refer back, and we will put the slides. I'll probably have Janae post them both on the Google Classroom that I think we're all in for this mentoring group. So I'll have her put it all there. So, but as we said before, if at any time you have questions, just shoot us an email or give us a call. I know Phil and Amy and I all teach at the same school, so that's kind of easy to communicate. But definitely, anytime.
I don't think I'm in the Google Classroom mentoring group. You just mentioned that, and I'm like, I don't think I have that. So
Me too. I don't have it.
Oh, okay. Let me find out. Maybe it's just for the mentors.
No, I have it. I have it. Janae had told me where it was to look for it. I don't know if we searched it, but it's under.
Well, I know there's like a general CTE one that I think everybody is in, but for the mentor group.
Oh, okay.
No, I just have, Becky, it's just you, me, Julie Jansen, and Janae.
Oh, okay. Well, I can just email you guys with links to this in the slideshow too.
perfect.
We'll figure it out. We'll get it to you.
Okay.
So, okay, well, if there isn't anything else, we really, really appreciate you guys spending some time after school. I don't know about you guys, but I've been tired being back to school. So we really appreciate you spending some time with us. We do have another workshop scheduled for next Tuesday if you can make it. And that one is on student engagement. So I know we did touch on a little bit of that today, but we're going to further expand on that next week.
With some activities resources to activities that look really cool.
So if there isn't any other questions, you guys have a great Tuesday.
You too. Thank you.
You're doing the same.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.